Hello and welcome. I'm here at Restorative Healthcare. My name is Tamie Yost, and I'm talking to Dr. Heather Wisniewski.
Hi everybody, how are you out there today?
Good, good. Well, we've got one question today that pops up a bit. It is, what's a homeopathic and how does it work?
Homeopathy was actually developed by a gentleman by the name of Hahnemann. He was a German gentleman, and he basically was a trained medical doctor. He was originally a biochemist who went to medical school. And at the time, the practices for medical school was a lot of bleeding, leeches. It was considered heroic medicine. And he found that a lot of the medications that they were using at the time were more lethal than they were beneficial. So if you survived the poisoning, you may actually have a cure. So his disagreement with biochemistry and everything in regards to how medicine was being handled at the time led him to discovering that there were elements in nature that if you took a small amount of it would actually create symptoms similar to a particular disease process. So the first homeopathic came from cinchonum, which is the bark of a tree. And what he found was that if the bark was diluted in the form of a tea or a tincture, and you sipped a little, you would get the same symptoms of malaria. So that's where, when you hear of homeopathy, you hear of like versus like. And so what he did was he started doing dilutions to see how dilute he could make it and still get symptoms of malaria. And he found that he could dilute these things extremely to small amounts. In fact, he could actually dilute them past Avogadro's number. And he could still elicit the malaria symptoms. His next test was to actually try it on someone with malaria, and it cured the malaria. Now Hahnemann actually, for his time frame, lived much longer than most other doctors. He lived up into his 90s, and eventually married a young woman because his first wife died, and moved to Paris. And one of the things after he moved to Paris, and in his latest writings just before he died, he said homeopathy was going to have to do some changes because when you got into a polluted city, he no longer could treat with one remedy like he could in the rural areas. And so he started doing a little bit more of combining or doing peeling off of layers with the homeopathy. So basically, when we're dealing with classical homeopathy and you come in and I find a remedy for you, what I'm doing is I'm looking at like symptoms and finding a natural diluted substance that will create those same symptoms. And it's kind of, if you do a positive with a negative, it cancels it out, so then you get rid of the system. Now Hahnemann theorized that this kind of worked along the realms of string theory in modern physics. He actually describes string theory in modern physics and how he felt homeopathy worked. And he felt that we were using vibrations. And if you use the right vibration to tune the body to find harmony, you could create harmony within the body.
Now, presenting with these like symptoms, with like treatments, would there be a worry on it making things worse?
Sometimes with homeopathy, things can get worse before they get better.
Okay.
And what you have to watch is, again, retaking the history at that moment in time. So you give a remedy, and they say, well, this, and this cleared, but this got worse. And from that, we have to see, do we continue on the same remedy, or do we switch to a different remedy? Because we've peeled off that layer that Hahnemann talked in his last years of life about.
Now, when we come in and you have a homeopathy for us, this is going to be safe, right?
Absolutely, because you're not actually getting, on most of the homeopathy, you're not actually getting any substance. You're getting, again, back to that string theory, that vibration of the substance.
Okay, so it's just the vibration, it's not the substance.
Correct.
Great. Well, if anybody has any questions about homeopathy that you'd like to have Dr. Heather check you out on, please give us a call here at Restorative Healthcare and we'll schedule a time for you to talk to Dr. Heather.
Have a great day.